sometimes there comes a game that changes your view on a specific genre. It may not bring any new mechanics to the table, but what it does bring, it manages to create into a masterpiece. I'm not the only one with this view apparently, if this review picture is anything to go by. So, without further ado, this is my quick review of The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Without spoilers though. All footage is of the Great Plateau from before you start the main game. Breath of the Wild is the latest installment in Nintendo's hit franchise, The Legend of Zelda. Reinventing the wheel and spinning it in a completely new direction, this open-world Zelda game manages to stand out as the franchise's biggest highlight since the days of Ocarina of Time. Taking mechanics from open-world games past, like Skyrim and The Witcher 3, Zelda is finally carving a name for itself in the open-world genre. It's a little bit late to the party, but after the traumatizing delay cycles of the game, we can see why. There is a serious attention to detail that went into Breath of the Wild that would not have been attained had they released the game 2 years ago. The world is beautifully detailed and absolutely massive. Snowfields, deserts, mountains, forests and towns. You've got all the traditional fantasy locations to explore, each with countless little named areas throughout the Hyrule maps, where even the smallest of islands has a name on the map. This game embraces the you can see it so you can climb it mentality that many games prior to this had promised but failed to deliver, whereas in Breath of the Wild, you literally can climb anything that you see. And this freedom of exploration has led to one of the most empowering Zelda experiences yet. You want to go to a high level area at the start of the game, go right ahead, the game won't stop you. You want to complete the final boss straight away? Well, bucko, have fun! The only hand-holding comes on the plateau, where you have to access 4 shrines, this game's mini-dungeons, to progress the story before leaving. And shrines are important. They are small dungeons you complete and find throughout your quest, acting as fast travel points and challenges to overcome. With over 100 shrines in the game and a stamina vessel or heart container gained for every 4 completed, the incentive is there to complete them, and the shrines themselves have unique puzzles that have you using 4 different rune powers that you get at the start of the game throughout the entire 30-hour playtime to solve puzzles in a variety of different ways. The open world atmosphere feels very melancholy. In some areas it feels quite empty, which works with the setting, giving me a more Shadow of the Colossus Forbidden Land style vibe, which I actually quite adored. Although, even with shrines, collectibles, and side quests, some areas of the game are more interesting than others. And one specific area in the game, the Gerudo Highlands, just felt a little bit bare and barren, and was not up to the caliber of the other areas. The voice acting and story told in this game are fairly good. While some may complain that the voice actors and actresses are not all perfect, and trust me, they're not the highest caliber, I felt that every voice suited each character. Zelda had her moments of weakness where I felt she could use more anguish in her voice, and Mipha's character was fairly monotone the whole time, but everyone else was a joy to listen to, especially Rivali. I could listen to him any day. The way the story is told in this game, however, could prove to be a problem for some gamers. While I enjoyed the challenge of hunting down the story, I could easily see why some people won't enjoy the Link's memory mechanic very much, as to find cutscenes in the game, you have to go to specific areas and recall memories from 100 years in the past, and this can be pretty annoying when you don't know where the picture that you're trying to find is. Enemy design is also a slight letdown. Overall, there just aren't many enemies in the game. You've got Bokoblins, Moblins, Lizalfos, Keese, Wizrobes, Lynels, Guardian-style enemies, and a few dungeon-specific enemies as well as the mini-bosses and main bosses in the game. But there just aren't as many natural enemy types, and it's a little disappointing. There are no Dodongos at Death Mountain, there are no plant-based enemies in the jungles. It all just feels the same, and I feel like it's a complete missed opportunity. Overall, however, Breath of the Wild is actually a pretty amazing game. It's easily one of the strongest games in the Zelda franchise, and for Nintendo's first venture into a fully open-world game, it's impressive. While I was let down by some rather consistent frame rate drops both on the Wii U and the Switch, it was never an issue when it mattered in terms of gameplay, so I could deal with it. But the benchmark is set so high that honestly I can't wait to see what happens in the next installment of Zelda a few years down the line. For alternate game recommendations, I will first point you to The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. It is pretty much the main game that you want to play if you want to get a gateway into the Legend of Zelda franchise. It is the standard that most of the past games followed, and it uses a formula that was tried and true, and I'm glad it was switched up in Breath of the Wild. But it is still an entertaining game, and one that people consider to be their favourite game of all time. Definitely worth a check out. The other game that I will recommend for you is Horizon Zero Dawn. This is a recent open-world RPG game released on the PlayStation 4, exclusive to the PlayStation 4, that has a similar aesthetic and feel to Breath of the Wild, from technological creatures that you must defeat, to the post-apocalyptic dystopian future. Both Hyrule in the future and the world of Horizon Zero Dawn emphasize this trait very well. So, hopefully, between Horizon Zero Dawn, Ocarina of Time, and Breath of the Wild, you will find a game to your liking. If you enjoyed this review, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and if you're watching on VidMe, don't forget to upvote. And if you want to check out last week's review of Boar, a PC platformer from the indie developers Devlog Studios, and go and check that out. You can find that in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.